We're here live on YouTube. Get your questions pumping because me and Michael Bolton are going to answer them. Michael?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I'm here to the window and to the wall. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com for the best newsletter for your favorite team. And give this video a thumb. Let's head our way to Operation 90K, the annexation of Canada. That will be great. Hit the thumbs, hit the subs. We're going to get there. All right, so here we are. Mailbag time. I'm going to answer your questions, as many of those as I can, as many of those that I find that apply to a large range of people, because I think that's a best way to do that. All right, let's take a look at what questions we got. Lakers Nation says, is Terry Rozier, as the question doesn't appear on the screen, and it was just before I started, so that's always a massive W. No, there we go. Is Terry Rozier a droppable candidate? I'm going to find a way to make that a bit bigger for you guys, so let me just fix that up. Is Terry Rozier a droppable candidate? Well, I'll just quickly say, not at the moment. Not at the moment, I don't think. It's heading there. Like, it's definitely... He's not looking good, is he, old Terry? But we're not dropping him yet. But I would say if you had any thoughts or hopes that Terry Rozier was going to be a top 60 player, or you thought, oh, it's back to Terry when he was in Charlotte and he's his top 40 guy, shout out to turnovers, then no, that's not going to happen, I would say. Greg says Vooch is goated. Yeah, when you're playing reverse NBA, I guess he's still not a good player. And this one still is crazy to me. People just think he's just doing the same thing he does every year. No, he's not. No, he's not. Because he's shooting 59.5% from the field. And he usually shoots 49.5% from the field. So, no, he's not doing the same thing. And I continue to tell you that it will fall off. And I cannot wait until it does. And if it doesn't, well, you know what? Cyano pills. I've got them always in my little pocket just in case something bad happens like that. Is Lauri Markkanen for Austin Reeves outrageous in a points league? Nothing's really outrageous. How are you going to value these guys? Markkanen has not been performing as well as Austin Reeves. He's also not likely to be playing the second half of the season. So, no, it's fine. Whatever. All good. Very specific trade questions, even though I know that was one. Not as likely to be as interesting questions, I think, across the general fantasy universe. So just be aware of that. Okay. Neil Chabra says, Kyrie is a late addition to the injury report with a shoulder strain. The Mavs are playing the Jazz. They are. Is Jaden Hardy the ad? I would... Jason Kidd's gone back and forth on this. In some of the games, he started with Hardy as that primary backup, and then he went to Spencer Dinwiddie, and then Hardy has crept back in. I think that knowing Kidd, and I don't know him at all, but knowing Kidd, he would probably put Dinwiddie in there, and Hardy would be the better player, but in fewer minutes. Or, the other thing is, last game it was Quentin Grimes. So, in terms of like who's got the larger upside, I think it's pretty clearly Hardy, but I don't think that he's going to be able to play the huge minutes because there are other options for them to use there. But like on a day like today, with one game on, if you wanted to stream in Hardy or Grimes, it's hard to see what the right decision or the wrong decision, and they're both going to have some value here. Eric says, seems like Jalen Williams is getting a ton more steals this year. From memory, Arnie's deflection is very similar to last year. I haven't actually looked at the deflection numbers, and let's see if I can check that up live on air. But Jalen Williams gets a lot of... that's one of the big things that he does, right? He's a steals guy. He gets tons of steals. So last season when he started out the year, his steal numbers were very low, and then the second half of the year, those steal numbers bumped up. So I'm not going to be surprised whether his steal numbers are high at the moment. Let me have a look. Deflections so far this season. Jalen Williams is it's not. This is a great way to be sort of understanding the way that deflections and steals correlate. The top 5 players on the Thunder: Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's just as plain as it is. 3.7 for Jalen Williams in deflections. Let's go to last season's numbers and see where the Bronco is there. 2.8. So yeah, like deflections are actually up. That's a significant increase in deflections. But that means their whole team's deflections are up. Their leader in deflections last year was Shai at 3.5, and they've got 3 players over 3 this season. Williams was second at 2.8, and Dort was at 1.7. So their deflection numbers are way up this season. CD24 in 9Cat, can we expect Jalen Johnson to return second round numbers? Can you expect it? I don't know. I don't know if expecting that is the right thing. Is it possible? I mean, sure. Let me have a look at where, on a per game basis, I'm just going to double check where Jalen currently sits. He's at 25, 6, 7, 27 at the moment. So, top 20 is maybe a step too far, because like what's he doing now that's going to improve? He's at 19 and 10, 5 assists, 1.5 steals, a block, 45 and 70. I guess if he took it to 49 and 75 and averaged 23 points, then yeah. So yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Okay. DeAndre Hunter is coming back. Is he an ad? Like, I'm going to answer this question for one specific reason. I have no idea because you don't tell me any information. So the answer is yes, and the answer is also no. You got to be more specific, guys. You got to be. Like, okay. Will Trey's injury last? Almost definitely not. Like, I say almost definitely not. The fact that he's already questionable today, we didn't really see any specific thing happen. It might be something that pops on and off of injury reports during the season. That's true. Like, it might be there at parts of the year. But as they like, wow, he's going to miss all this sort of long period of time. I don't think that's anything sort of realistic or anything along those lines. It doesn't appear that that's the way we're going here. Is Time Lord a good handcuff for Ayton? And that brings us to one of the big questions of the day, doesn't it, Dave? Because we're talking Portland centers. Is he a good handcuff for Ayton? Well, someone's going to ask the same question. Is Donovan Clingan the same thing? And this is where the problem lies. Is that I don't know. And we don't find out, right? They don't play until Sunday. 3 days off. They've got a huge gap with no games for whatever reason it is. 48 hours ago, everyone would have been clamoring to add Robert Williams. I think Donovan Clingan's mum jumped in the comments yesterday. Man, how dare you say Robert Williams is better than Donovan Clingan? Put some respect on Donovan Clingan's name. Look at the man. He had 8 blocks. He's so awesome. Okay. How about we also settle down? At the moment, Clingan was like getting third string center minutes. And then last game with 2 centers out, he started and was really good. Who's the better handcuff? It's probably Clingan, because let's be honest, like, who are they committing to more long-term? It's Clingan. But I think it's going to be a really messy scenario. And if you've got Ayton as well. I think if you've got Ayton, be prepared for 26-minute nights at times and extra time off and all that sort of stuff. I think that you can have Clingan, you can have Williams, and you can have Ayton all rostered at the moment. And how it shakes out, I think it's going to be one of those annoying... Think of it like a shooting guard in Sacramento scenario where it's Herter, it's Monk, it's Alice, and they just sort of... One guy's up and down and up and down and up and down. I think it's going to be frustrating like that. Will Dort be a top 100 player this year? Almost no chance. He's not that good. As much as he's been better, he's not that good. Is Jalen Duren a sell low? Well, that doesn't exist. It's not a real thing, so I'm going to say no, it's not. Is Dyson Daniels' numbers sustainable, or do you think he will fall off? Jasmine Wynn says. It's pretty hard. Okay, I think your general rule of thumb should be Daniels is averaging 3.6 steals a game. The general rule of thumb should be if something hasn't happened for, 40 years? Your general position on that should be, yeah, it's probably going to fall off. And that's okay. Because he might average 2.6 steals for the season and still lead the league. Remember, the league leader in steals last season, off the top of my head, was 1.9. So we're talking double the steal rate at the moment. So is it going to drop off? Almost certainly. Almost certainly. But will it drop off enough to matter? I'm not sure. What player would I vote for if I ran for president? None. I'm not a US citizen. We don't have a president here, so I wouldn't be voting for anybody. Okay. hold Jabari Smith? Absolutely not. But of course, you've given no context. So absolutely yes. Hold him under all circumstances that you apply to, but also drop him in every other league that you're in as well. Of course, you're in a 12-team league. It's an easy drop. How many steals? No idea, mate. Yes, no idea how many you'll finish with. That's a real tough call. Connect for Rookie of the Year? No. Probably go for better players, I would say, for Rookie of the Year. Do I believe in what Cam Johnson has done this season? Skeptical. He hasn't been anything more than a streamer in point. Skeptical is more than anything. Well, what he's done so far this season, I don't think there's anything that's like outrageous about what Cam Johnson's been doing. He's averaging 16 points with 4 rebounds and 3 threes. He's shooting 47 and 86. There's literally nothing about that screams unsustainable. And let's check the percentages. 64 on 2, maybe. That's probably a little high. Right, 58, 59, maybe for him, 57, whatever. But he's shooting 37 from 3. That can jump 4 percentage points easily. It's not an outrageous stat line that he's putting up. So is it sustainable? The only reason it wouldn't be is injury and a trade or tanking. Do you approach deeper leagues in a different way than standard leagues? Obviously, you have to, right? The guys who become fringe players in standard leagues, I'll use my mate Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they're key parts of deeper leagues. Because instead of being your 13th best player with no chance to be in your best 10, he's your 7th best player. It's a very different mindset. What do you do with Keyonte George? That's totally up to you. You live your life the way that you need to and the way that you choose to. But what I would do with Keyonte George at the moment is I would hold him because it is hard, and I know it's hard, right? He's shooting horribly, and maybe he's just the worst shooter we've ever seen. That's possible. That is possible, right? But he generates good assists. His minutes are fine. His usage is good. And all of those things are really important. All of those things are important. Being able to get those sort of numbers, it might not improve. That is 100% like possible, right? That it doesn't improve. But like if you look at the way the numbers are sitting at the moment, it seems impossible that it won't improve. I'm going to dig up some of Keyonte's numbers here, just to take a look at a few things. Not his shooting numbers necessarily, because again, I'm very confident that they're going to be able to improve. But if I look at potential assists, he sits at 9.8 potential assists and 6.1 regular assists. All right, so 9.8 potential assists, and players don't generate. That's not that we're saying, he should be getting 15 a game. That's not what it is. But if I go back and look at where he sat at potential assists last season, he was at 7.7 with 4.4 real assists. So we're talking about 15 to 16 combination assists and potentials versus last season at about 12. And that's the difference. That's part of the difference. It's the increased role. It's the increased responsibility as the starting point guard. Last season, he made 46 passes a game. This season, as I get the numbers back up, he has been making 68, which is very different. The shooting, horrendous. But that usage and role, I think, is quite important, and I would try to hold through it if I could. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Yes, Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up all of the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. How many leagues am I in this year? Sean Keller asks. Good question. I am in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 7. And you're right. It's a lot. He's in 6 and he says pushing the limit. I honestly, I get up in the morning here. My alarm goes off at 5 a.m. And I usually snooze it for 15 to 20 minutes. I get up, I come in here, I start preparing shows. I record 2 to 3 shows or 2 shows in the morning, start preparing stuff for the day and then the day ahead as well. And then watch the games, comment on the games, write all the box score reports, prepare a daily recap show. And by the time that is done, I barely have time to go and scour waiver wires, anything like that. So there are days where I sometimes just forget to actually go and have a look at the waiver wire to who to add to my team because I've got so many teams, and I'm also commissioning all of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowls, all bloody however many we've got of those, like 120 leagues of those, looking for trades and making sure things are going down. That it does get too much. And I don't have that time for every game. I couldn't even tell you the players that I have on my teams. I've got a lot of teams and a lot of players, and it gets a lot, right? So my major focus always is providing information that's league-wide, player-wide, format, non-specific necessarily, versus like, this is what I did in my league, and I didn't draft this guy, so I'm not going to... I don't know. I've never seen what he does. I can't really talk about it. I do that for 550 players. I tell you everything about them at all points that I know and what I see and how that applies. Focusing on my team, really tough. And 6 is a lot, man. It's really, really hard. What are your expectations for Hartenstein when he comes back minus Chet? Huge. Maybe top 50, I would say. I would think it'd be very quick before he... won't be very long before he's pushing 30 minutes a night. He's an excellent field goal free throw guy. Just think of Chet with probably fewer blocks, more assists, less points. He's really good. He's going to be really good. Why? Okay. That question just appeared on my screen and then disappeared. That's all right. Have you viewed fantasy as more enjoyable ever since the threes have become more relevant over the years? What is your favorite years of fantasy in the ones you've covered? I don't know that the threes really changes all that much in terms of there's more of them, so it's more enjoyable. It doesn't really impact me. What I think it does do, though, is the fact that threes are so much more commonplace now. And in the past, when I started this, if someone averaged a 1-1-1, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 3, it was relatively rare. Now, you're probably going to change that to be a 2-1-1, 2 threes, 1 steal, 1 block, because there's so many people hit threes. But what it does is the way the NBA has changed. It makes field goal percentage an absolutely irrelevant category. It shouldn't exist as a fantasy category. Cue people in the chat and the comments ready to think, this guy hates this stuff, he shouldn't do it. No. Field goal percentage is a terrible real-life evaluation of a player and their shooting and their efficiency. Terrible. And therefore, it's terrible for fantasy. I'll bring up that example the other day of someone said to me when I was talking, and again, I was talking correctly, and so was he. And I said Steph Castle had a bad shooting night. He shot 40%. He goes, he didn't. He shot 40% from, it's 2 of 5 from 3. That's 40%. That's actually unbelievable shooting. It is. But 40% field goal is terrible in fantasy. It's bad. Your league average is 49 on field goals. But he had a good night. He did what he needed to do. He went 40% from 3. Bang. But if you're talking field goal percentage, which is what we should use, that is a much better way of measuring efficiency. But we don't do it, and we probably never will, to be honest. And that's really frustrating. If I had to pick who is more must roster between Amen Thompson and Tari Eason, who's more? I don't have to pick. That's the beauty of this thing. I don't. They both are. There's not someone who is more must roster. They both are. And if you're debating, toss a coin. When we get to these things, and I preach this a lot through draft season, and this is something I preach. I don't preach. I'm not a preacher. In my everyday life, when you're coming there and making this decision, like you got 99% outcome, but you can work another 3 days on it to get to 99.1, don't bother with it. What for? You're already there. And it's the same with this. Like, is Tari or Amen a better option? I actually don't know. And the difference between them is so small that I don't think it matters. And you just I'd try to get both, but take whichever one you want. Don't sweat on that for so long trying to figure out who's going to be better. Like, it might be Tari. It probably is Tari, to be honest, but it might not be. But the difference there is not really that big. Dennis says, why do the Wizards insist on Alex Sarr shooting threes? That clearly doesn't seem to be part of his game. Well, guess what? They're not trying to win games necessarily, and they're trying to develop him into a huge threat. A guy that can hit threes, Wemby, Chet, Porzingis. A guy that protects the rim, Wemby, Chet, Porzingis. He's got one of them down. I don't know if the threes will ever come, but he's not unable to shoot them. They're not going in. I think he'll get there. It just takes some time, and they don't care if they don't go in right now. You might care because it's hurting your team's field goal percentage, but I can guarantee you they don't, and he doesn't. It's about working on it and improving it. Brijesh Patel. Josh, if you had to pick 2 between BJ Boston, Dort, Dick, and Dunn, who are you going with? Well, I don't know your format, man. So I'm going to assume that you're playing in a 15-category league with 3-point attempts as one of the categories. But who would I pick there? I'm always going to be partial to Dick. I would also, look, if I look at this, right, BJ Boston going to have some interesting short-term value. Dunn, I don't know if he continues to start, but what I do know with Chris Dunn is that there is a very obvious way that he can continue to start. Of course, Kawhi returning would end that, but I don't know when or if that happens. Dort is going to be Dort. He's been pretty good. But Boston is going to be like fine, and he's a two-way guy, and he's going to lose out soon. I would definitely take Dick, and I would probably take Dunn, although, again, Boston's going to be an assist and points guy. Dunn's going to be a steals and assist player. It really depends on what you're looking at there. And Dort is fine, just with less short-term interest. I don't know how to really answer this, like how to quantify these questions. How much regression will you see from Shaedon Sharpe? You'll see 17 regression points. I don't know, and that's me being a smartass, clearly. But I don't know how to quantify it. How much will you see when they return a lot? Like, a lot. It's always, remember what usage is, right? And if you don't know what usage is, go and look it up. But there's only so much you can do. And if other people are on the court and they're doing stuff, then that means you do less. And it was really clear. Last game, Ayton was out, Simons was out, Sharpe's usage went up. Great. And when they come back, it has to pull back. It has to. So I don't know how to quantify it, but it's going to pull back. 100% it's going to pull back. Alex says, what's the story behind the Barnesy bit? I say it's really simple, but it's not, because all nicknames have a long, long runway to get there. So Harrison Barnes, his initials are HB. The most common form of pencil in anywhere who uses regular measurement systems, not the US of course, is an HB pencil. You clowns call it number 2. I have no idea, because why would you do anything the same as the rest of the world? You might as well keep it as crazy as possible. So his nickname was his initials are HB. I called him the pencil because an HB pencil is a common pencil to most people, so I called him the pencil. And then his nickname is obviously Barnes. And then there is a song, which was a meme song, and you might know it as the Screaming Cowboy meme, which, if you go and search for the song, it's called Big Enough. And I think if you scroll to about 40 seconds, you'll see part of it, right? And the guy who is the Screaming Cowboy is an iconic Australian singer by the name of Jimmy Barnes. Barnesy. So, Barnes, yeah? Bang, Barnes, Screaming Cowboy. And then I couldn't use the actual clip of the song, so I was able to create a non-copyrighted version of the Barnesy song. So he's the pencil, Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. What to do with Lively? I can't justify dropping Aldama, Bub, Keyshawn, or Dick. What to do with him? And like, he's a must-roster player very clearly. You can't justify dropping Aldama, Bub, Keyshawn, or Dick. I mean, you can. I could easily justify dropping those guys. Actually, yeah, could I? Okay. You're obviously in a really strong position, Clamp God, because they're all guys that are interesting. Keyshawn's been good. Bub's been solid. But these players, and Aldama, right? Aldama and Dick have a shelf life. It's not going to be a long-term thing for those guys, I wouldn't have thought, at this level. Whereas Lively, I think, is. So, look, I would have Lively valued ahead of Aldama, pretty clearly. Probably ahead of Bub. Maybe Keyshawn, and almost definitely Dick. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. I better put the little banner across there. Start the season, or get ready to tackle the NFL action, in fact, with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats as I die in the middle of this read, view live play-by-play, and much more on the same page where you place your bets. Go to FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Heading into the last stretch here, the final stretch of the day. What I'm going to do right now, though, is just go and have a quick check on injury statuses and updates and see if we've got anything that's actually interesting here. All right. Nope, nothing super amazing. Not really nothing that's gone down at all today, so that's interesting. Who is Michael Bolton? I don't know, man. Just check WGOOGLE.com. You'll probably be able to find it in there. let's have a look. Is quickly an ad for a stash? Like it's all going to depend individually, Chris. But like, yeah, I think he's a top 50 player, so I'd be trying to find a way to do that. Yes. Why am I so smart? Angela says, adrenochrome. Is Aaron Gordon a 9-cat 12-team player? He's on waiver, should I stash? He is a fringe guy. Like fringe. Very fringe. So I don't think I'd bother with a stash there. Back on quickly. What are my predictions regarding quickly? He will be okay or Toronto will shut him down? Like, okay, we need to be very, very cautious about shutdown calls now. I will be very clear about this. Middle of March, Larry Markkinen, some other Jazz players, maybe Jordan Clarkson, Jeremy Grant, Anfernee Simons, and probably guys like Pirtle and Barnes and Quickly in Toronto probably won't play the final 4 weeks of the season. No one is getting shut down now. Doesn't happen. So yeah, it's frustrating that we're weeks away, maybe 4 weeks from Quickly returning. But there's almost zero chance that he is done for the year. 0.001%. 0.001%. Guys, try not to ask thoughts, questions. I just talked about Keyonte already. Am I out on George? No, I'm not. No, I'm not at all. Jay Huff, how is he getting top 85 stats? Is it sustainable? No, 100% it isn't. You saw it yesterday. It's not sustainable. He couldn't continue to block shots at that rate. He was shooting threes at an insane level as well. It has no chance of being sustainable. Not at all. Will there ever be a Basketball Monster app? I've got no idea. I know Ken was looking into it. Don't really know what came of that. I don't run the site. I don't own the site. I don't do the tech for the site. I know that people have been asking about it. I know he's looked into it, but I'm not really sure where it's at the moment. Who's the better stream Thursday, Saturday? Najee Marshall or Kyle Filipowski? I actually probably think it's Filipowski. It's riskier, though. There's less minutes floor, but it is riskier. Am I concerned about Sabonis' shot attempts going down? Not really. Like, I think that was always an expectation that DeRozan would do something to that sort of stuff. So, like, I don't know. What was my take on the scummy trade from yesterday? Well, I tweeted that out, and I put it out to, by the way, joshloyd.bsky.social on Blue Sky. Go follow me over there. I think at some point, I don't know when it's going to happen, that I will just stop tweeting. Honestly, I probably will, and I'll just post on Blue Sky. I'm not there yet. I'm going to cross-post at the moment, but I think that's possible. What's my take on the scummy trade if you didn't see it? I asked whether this was a scummy thing to do, and apologies to the person who was involved in this trade if they're watching this, but this is my take on it. It was a trade that someone had sent out where they send out Steph Curry and they get back Chet Holmgren. And this trade was a day before Chet was hurt. No, that was sent out. That trade sat out there, and maybe it might have been 2 days after Chet was injured, the person accepted it. So then they got healthy Steph Curry and traded away injured Chet Holmgren. Right, so I said, is this a scummy thing to do? What's my take on it? Yes, it is. You should never do that. And that immediately got vetoed by me because I'm the commissioner. I said, there's no way I'm letting this happen. There are different ways to look at this. You can say, well, it's on that person to retract it. Sure. But what are we doing? Are we actually all just assholes? Oh, we're trying to win. Yeah, but like there is a thing called sportsmanship, right? How good do you feel about getting a win by an unsportsmanlike move? I wouldn't feel good about it. I like to win properly, fair and square. That's just me. I don't need to do that. And it's not cheating. I understand that. But nuance and context are really easy and really important. To me, this is actually 100% clear cut. You just don't accept it. Or you send the guy back, go, hey, I know you sent this before the injury. Do you actually still want to do it? You probably don't, yeah? Versus like, hey, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump on it. Because I'll tell you what also about it. Like you can say, well, it's on that guy to pull that trade back. Okay, I get that. But that trade wasn't immediately accepted after the injury happened. So that guy that received it saw that open trade or there was open trades in his inbox. He didn't go through it and look at it for 2 days. He didn't. He went and accepted it later. It was just something that like sort of moved through everyone's filter and it wasn't there. It's a very clear veto. It shouldn't happen. That sort of stuff just is not like in the spirit of playing fantasy. Do you actually want to win that way? I wouldn't at all. It's sportsmanship. So yeah, that's my take on that. Very, very clear. Easy veto. Now, if someone had proposed, I'll send you Steph and you give me Chet, and you accept it, and then before the trade even processes, then Chet gets hurt, that's fine. That's done. That trade goes through. You both accepted it, understanding what the situation was at the time, and whether Chet got hurt 4 hours later or 3 days later or a month later, it doesn't matter. All the information was the same as when it was proposed versus when it was accepted. And then if you're waiting for the commish to come in and process it, doesn't matter. And that's why I wanted to check the timelines on that, because I would have just approved it, because that is a different story. Who's my favorite NBA player? I don't have one. I'm a 44-year-old man. I don't really sit there and go, "Ooh, this guy's my favorite guy." There are plenty of players that I like, and I could tell you a thing I like about 300 NBA players, I think. I don't have players that I like. I don't have my favorite team. I just have players that I hate. Taylor Horton Tucker. Any chance Mathurin keeps this up? No. And I'll tell you why there's no chance he keeps it up. And when people say that sort of question, understand that I'm going to be relatively literal when we're talking about it. We're going to end this show soon, by the way. Is there any chance he keeps it up? No. Is there any chance he remains good? Yes, but they're different questions. What is he doing that's not going to hold Ben Mathurin? Well, he's shooting 47% from 3 and 52% from 3 over his last 6 games. So there you go. That might drop 20 percentage points. It probably won't. He shot 37 last season, but 32 as a rookie. So that's going to fall. There's absolutely no shot of that sticking. His first 2 seasons in the NBA, 49 and 48% from 2. This season, 57. Not going to hold. They're the easy things you look at. He's also averaging, and if I look at this on a per 36 basis, it's way more interesting, up from 5.5 rebounds to 8.6 over the last 6 games. I don't know whether he's going to be able to rebound at that level, but it is something that seems a little bit unrealistic. So while he is rolling at top 50 over the last 2 weeks, I think he's more around top 100. And then Nembhard and Neesmith have to come back. Does his usage hold? Is that sky high? It's at 24, so not really. It's really about the shots going in at an astronomically high level and the rebounds bumping up. Portland center situation. No. This is an interesting one. Sean Callis says, in a shallow league, 8 teams, expanded roster 120. So you're talking about a 10-team league, basically. Who's the drop out of D'Lo, Kuzma, Bilal, or Brown? Wow, that is... Kuzma's been bad. Bilal struggled last game. Brown has, I'd say, been better than all of them. Things are trending very clearly in the wrong direction for D'Lo. Very clearly. Very clearly. Yeah. Out of that group, it's on it. I wouldn't drop Bilal. I wouldn't drop Brown. It's probably D'Lo, but I don't like it. It's not a scumbag move because he knew it was going to get vetoed. No, he didn't. He had no idea it was going to get vetoed. How would he know that? Why Blue Sky? Because it's a lot nicer of an environment. Twitter is disgraceful at the moment. The absolute filth that you see put onto your For You page, the ridiculous comments and the way that people act on there is insane, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the garbage on there, sick of all of the ridiculous changes, the verification changes, the there's something else that I had in my head. But anyway, there's just so much misunderstanding, but mainly just people acting vile all the time. And I don't have time for it. It's not a good place to be. It is a toxic environment most of the time. So that's why. Someone asked, how tall am I? Could I play point guard for the Palace? Am I tall enough to do it? Yeah, I'm 6'4". Could I do it? No, because I can't really dribble. So yeah, probably not. Although, you never know. Is Darius Garland for Paul George trade reasonable? JDZ, I will again state my case very clearly. How on earth could I know? And the reason I say that is you have told me absolutely nothing. What kind of a league is this? I don't know. No idea. So is it reasonable? Sure. Is it reasonable? No, it's a dreadful trade. But it is actually reasonable. But I also don't know. You got to tell me more. What else do we have in here as we get ready to wrap this up? We'll do a few more questions. Royce O'Neal has been pissing me off since KD got injured. Bunkero sitting there in free agency for 2 weeks and I dropped Royce for him. Cool, that's not a question. So I should have read through the end of that, shouldn't I? Is Simons' season in jeopardy? It doesn't appear so, unless I've missed some sort of an update. I thought we're at real risk of punctured lung or something like that, but it appears it's just some sort of illness, which I'm going to guess is COVID. And I don't think that it is in jeopardy at all. Okay. Is Buddy Hield a 12-team, 9-cap player? Yes. For now. I'm not sure that he stays there. Am I against people giving new people in your fantasy league pointers? Absolutely not. Here we go, right? Then we're gonna talk a little bit philosophical. Again, I think this is a little bit more interesting than very specific player questions, which I will get to. There was an interesting question that someone said, are you worried about Haliburton in 14-team 9-cat? I'll get back to this new people advice. Am I worried about him in 14-team? Like, sure, but what does it do? Who cares? And I say that like knowing that this is my life and passion. This is sport and hobby. All right. Are you worried about him? What are you going to do about it? What does worrying do about it? Do I think he's going to be a 30% shooter? No. I think he's going to improve significantly from there. Am I annoyed that it's been like that? Yeah, like it would be better if he was like the player that he's been for 2.5 years in a row. But it seems very unrealistic that a player like that will just become this guy all of a sudden. Seems unrealistic. Anyway, am I against people giving new people in? No, absolutely not. Because, like I said, back to that trade question, what are we here to do? People go, oh, I'm here, I'm going to win money. Do you know how like bad of an investment season-long fantasy is if it's actually a way you're trying to win money? You put amount of money in, you sit on it for 6 months, it sits there not doing anything for 6 months, and you come out at the end with maybe a shot of 6xing your money. Maybe. A 1/12th shot of 6xing. It's a terrible investment. So you're doing it for fun. A little bit of money is nice, but it's fun. All right? A 6-month investment for, you're not putting in $100,000 in a league, and if it hits, you're winning $1 million. It's not what you're doing. So yeah, look, it's great to be competitive. We all want to win, but I think the idea of all of this is have fun, be less toxic, get more people involved in playing the game. Surely we want that, yes? I don't see any argument for I want fewer people playing fantasy. Don't get it. So if there are new people in your league, why would you want to make them feel like they don't know what they're doing, get them embarrassed in drafting or losing, and losing them from the sport, and then if someone ever says anything, they go, I played it once, it was terrible, don't do it, it sucks. Like, you don't want that. What's the point of it? It's like the inside the NBA thing, which has permeated to so many areas of media, of people in the media and areas who say, oh, the NBA sucks, it's so bad. Okay, eventually, people are going to start parroting that. Oh, it's all terrible. And then, you know what happens? Things go backwards. It makes no sense to do that. So yeah, give them pointers. Why wouldn't you? Zion says you're the GOAT for putting Jared McCain on the thumbnail. McCain's, you've done it again. Remember those? I used to love that when I was growing up, looking at those McCain's ads of the chips that would go in the oven. We never had them. I wasn't ever allowed to buy them at home. I don't know why, but I used to love how they looked. Anyway, is Trey Murphy drop? Absolutely not, Richie. Is Trey Murphy droppable in 10-team categories? What are you talking about? Sorry, Richie, for calling it. No, absolutely not. No chance. Do not do it. Don't. Please. Come on. The illness is possible sinus infection. Yeah, I don't know about that. Like it's sinus. You're not really clasping at your chest for your breathing difficulties. Sinus is obviously the sinus, which is the big open hole behind your nose and eyes. It's more something in his chest. Maybe it's an asthma thing. I'm not really sure. All right. Do I live in Australia? Yes, I do. I always have. Probably always will. All right, we'll do one more question and then I think we'll get out of here. Do I have more faith in Bub or Bilal's production the rest of the way? That's a really good question. I think your usual default on a question like that should be is that the older, more experienced player you should have more faith in. But I'm not sure that I do. I will still lean Bilal because the minutes are higher and the role feels a little bit more secure. But it's not as high, or it's not big of a difference as I think, or as you might think, or as maybe I thought before I even answered that question. Is there a path for Jabari Smith getting top 80? I mean, sure, there's a path for anybody doing that, but I didn't see how. Minutes are down, shooting is poor, and that will improve. But I am basically out on him, I would say now, at this point in the season. I reckon we might get out. Cactus, I've seen you ask this a million times. Is Jakob Poeltl a sell high? Sure, absolutely, whatever. The main reason is that what he's doing at the moment is not unsustainable. He can keep doing that, but I just don't think he's going to be playing end of season. Who would I trade him for? I'm not going to tell you that. Because I'll tell you why. Because I don't know. I'd have to sit there, give me 10 minutes, have a look at league, look who's available, because that's really useless. What I would do, though, is if you're in a points league, what is Jakob Poeltl averaging? And then try and target someone who's maybe averaging 2 points fewer. Understand that someone may not believe that Poeltl continues it all season. Do that, or find a player that you think will average the same, but is underperforming. Who that is, I've got no idea. I'm not going to tell you. Again, part of this show is to educate, entertain, inform, but not to hold hands through individual things like that. Okay. I think that we're done. So, if you are here, and I know that you are because I'm talking to you, hit the old thumb, double bang, subscribe. I'll be back later on with a preview show for a big Friday tomorrow. So get ready for that. Double bang, joshloyd.bsky.social. Check me out over there. We're slowly building that, following up, and a lot of people are migrating over. A lot of fantasy guys are migrating over. NBA people, sport people. There's tons over there. I'll be posting over there. The other good thing for that, for content creators' perspective, is that on Twitter, when you post a link, nobody sees it. Old mate, old bloated abdomen legend, anytime there's an external link, he throttles it so people don't see it. On Blue Sky, when you post a link to someone, hey, come and watch the video, people see it. And as the user base builds up, it's going to be way better for driving people to go and see the stuff that you do. So, Twitter's historically been one of the worst social media drivers to anything. To like, if you put a link there, nobody clicks through anything on Twitter. It just doesn't do anything. Doesn't get seen, and even worse now. And that's part of it, I think, as well. Last question. Do I hate Canada? Of course I do. Guys, see ya. Wish these Canadians would stop asking me these questions. They suck. Like, just